We would be honored if you would join us.
And who might you be?
You stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder. I love you.
I know.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Carbonite Chamber. It's 2017, it's a new year, and we have a whole load of new guests to come on. For this episode we have a very special guest, World Champion Brad Emon. There's lots to discuss, I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the Carbonite Chamber. Good to see you, Brad.
Good to see you, man. How's it going?
Not too bad. You're here to tell us your epic adventure in Worlds and many other things. So let's get stuck in. Worlds. How did it all start?
So the first debate that happened, the very first thing right out of the gate, is this year I decided to drive myself to Worlds because I didn't want to leave when someone else had to leave or have somebody sit around and wait for me. And I always, 100% of the time, I go to a convention, I get sick. As soon as I get in the car, the timer starts, and within a 48-hour span, I am sick. It happens every time. So I prepared for that. I was like, all right, I know I'm going to get sick. I packed Excedrin, I had Dayquil, and I was like, I'll just buy waters, just keep drinking water. Maybe I'll be okay, whatever. So I decided to drive myself. It's not too bad. It's about 3 hours from where I live. But I left the morning of because I was like, I don't want to sleep in a hotel any more days than I have to. So I slept in my own bed, woke up at I think it was 5:30, drove 3 hours to get there on time to be able to play Thrones because Thrones was the first game I had to play. I did well in Thrones. I made top 16 for that, and then that was the whole first day. I think it was 8 rounds. It was just a ton of rounds. It was 7 or 8 rounds. I got lucky though when I played against Sam, the last year's world champion and he's from our store. So I work with him actually, and I got to play him. So he was nice and scooped to me in a game. So then I was able to make top 16. I had to win. I had to not lose the next 2 rounds basically. And then on the win and in, I just absolutely blew the guy out. I played turn 1. Just turn 1, he was just dead on the board. So that was the win and I was super juiced about that. Going into the top 16 of that, everything had been paired. I knew who I was playing. I didn't know what they were playing, but I knew who I was playing. And then what ended up happening was someone dropped, and instead of the person that dropped taking that person's, or the new person taking that person's seed, they moved everybody up and then had to repair. So I ended up playing a guy from DC who we know really well. And I knew I was screwed because he had a 70-30 favorite over me. So and that was bad. I shouldn't have thought like that. I remember sitting down and being well, what do I, he knows my deck back to front because I play one of Sam's decks because he's insanely good at the game. And I just had been playing that deck for a year and I didn't want to switch. And so I ended up playing him, and he knew my whole deck in and out. And I was thinking of all the ways that I could possibly beat him. And then we're sitting in the hotel doing the math. And I say to one of my friends, I was I think I have a 70-30 here. I think I'm that unfavored. And he's like, I was actually thinking 80-20. And I was oh no. Nice. So that was the discussion at 2 a.m. before we go to sleep. I'm it's still a little confidence there. But yeah, he just it basically went exactly the way that we said it was going to. I drew an okay hand, mulligan, or I drew a bad hand and then mulliganed into an okay hand, and then obviously not a lot of people that listen to this are Thrones players, but he got the wall out early and then just beat me in 5 turns. It was like Mike Tyson versus an infant. It wasn't even close. He just got way too far ahead and I couldn't do anything to reel him back. By the time I dealt with the one card that I knew I was going to have to deal with, it was way, way, way too late. But yeah, so this I got for Thrones top 16. Oh,
very nice.
It's just it's the Lanny big box art. So that was the first thing. That was day 1, and then the start of day 2 was that. And then that night after Thrones top, I had lost the first round, and I think it was only 2 or 3. It wasn't super late, and I was oh well, what do I do now? So I just did some Thrones drafts. I went 3-0 in one, and then 2-1 in another. I really like those. I really like the draft formats actually for all the Fantasy Flight games. I think they're super enjoyable. I wish there was a way that you could successfully draft Star Wars. I think that would be a cool thing. I honestly think that would probably help like players in the game, maybe it would at least keep it around longer. Developing a draft format would be very interesting, and I think it would make the game very different. But yeah, that like all the drafts I've played and enjoyed, like Netrunner I really enjoy, Thrones I really enjoy. It just sucks if you have like from a store standpoint when we have packs left over and the new ones come out, nobody wants to do the old ones. So that sucks from a store standpoint. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed the drafts, and the Thrones drafts went really well for me. I have a lot of fun because it's very different than playing like a regular Game of Thrones, and it's very hard to predict what people are going to do because the card pool it's quite large and the stuff is just weird. There's a lot of weird stuff that can happen on any given turn because it's a draft format. But yeah, so I did that, and then I went out for a little bit with the Star Wars crew. Although that was the next day. So sorry, I went out with the Thrones crew. So this is the first or the second night, and I actually got to sleep in a hotel. I slept in a hotel then. And then the next day was Star Wars, which I was pretty tired from the start. And like that morning I woke up and the timer had struck midnight, like the clock had struck midnight. And I knew it's like, all right, by the end of this day, I am sick 100%. Like, you know, when you get the feeling in your throat, you get hot and you get kind of like foggy. Yeah. And I was like, all right, all I got to do is I just want to, I'm like, I'll just shoot for like top 16. Like if I make top 16 feeling this bad, I will be very happy. So the Swiss rounds went okay. Those were actually like honestly the hardest, the hardest for me. I played against God, I forgot his name. He's in the top 16. He played the Chuck Luke, so the lightsaber throw Luke, and like the other Yoda. He was in the top 4. I forgot what his name is. But he was playing Brainiac. Right. This guy playing Brainiac. I always forget his name. But yeah, I played him and he just absolutely, like one of the rounds, he just absolutely rolled over me. It like wasn't even close. He had like he had the speeder bike that's in the Chuck Luke pod. He had Luke's speeder and Luke on like turn 2, and I had nothing. I literally had nothing. I think I had like a Tarkin out. I'm like, I'm just so dead. But yeah, he rolled over me. Later in the Swiss rounds, I was lucky and Tom wanted to split with me. I took like a really risky split with Tom. And it wasn't even like we weren't even both locked. It was like it was more like I don't feel like playing you, and he's like, I don't feel like playing you either. It's like, okay, let's split. But yeah, we played for fun and then split anyway. And then the last round I knew I could split in, so I split in. But I think I took 4 losses in Swiss rounds. One to the split with Tom, one to the split with the last guy. One to getting rolled over by the Luke deck. That was a beating. I really wish that game was on recording because that game was a pounding. And like when I knew that he was in the top 16, I was like, I do not want to play his light side deck again because he rolled me over. But yeah, I do not remember where the last loss came from. But anyway, so that was the end of the first day Swiss rounds, and like I know the next day I am going to wake up and feel awful. And like I already knew that. I already knew it. And so that night I was hanging out with the Star Wars guys. We went to Joe Sensors and like got pizza and stuff and just talked. And then I was already super happy because I made top 16. I was like, holy crap, I made top 16. I feel like junk. Like tomorrow's going to just be hell. I'm like, but I don't really care because I still did well. I got to play, man. Like I got to go home with something from this. That's awesome. But yeah, and then we're just chatting up at the bar, and I was like, I was smart enough not to drink or anything. Like I didn't do anything dumb. I was like, I'm just gonna sit here and sip my water. And then I realized that night I was like, all the guys that I came with are just Thrones players, and I was like, oh, I don't think I have a hotel. Like, and I realized it when we were standing in front of the Fantasy Flight Game Center before Joe Sensors at like, I think it was like 9 or 10 p.m. It was like right after the Swiss for the Star Wars, right after like Andy took the big group photo. Yeah, so there was like the big group photo, and then it's like we just chatted around out front and like a half an hour, and I'm standing out there and I'm all like, oh, I'm happy I made time. And then I was like, it like dawned on me, I was like, I don't have anywhere to sleep. I just like kind of blurted that out randomly, and then there was a lot of discussion. I'm like, because Mick lives close to there. I'm like, Mick, let me sleep on your floor, and he's like, no. It's like, okay, that's fine, I get it. But yeah, and then so I ended up getting invited to the hotel with Josh, and I remember when we left Joe Sensors, like I'm slogging down the sidewalk. And I'm just miserable at this point. Like I ate a lot of food. Like when I get like really sick, I eat a lot of food, because I feel like it's my body preparing for the long winter. Like it knows like you're just gonna be dead tomorrow, so eat now. But yes, I was pounding food at Joe Sensors, and I'm just walking, and I'm like looking at the sidewalk, and I just feel so down. Like I was just so down. And we get back to the hotel, and those guys they start chatting and stuff, and they were talking about like maybe playing a game. Like Josh and those guys were talking about their decks, and I was like, I just went in the closet. Okay, so I was like looking for a spot to sleep, and I thought about sleeping on the floor, and I was like, Josh just mentioned it offhand. He's like, "Oh man, hopefully you don't get kicked." And I thought about that. I'm like, I feel so awful right now that if like 2 a.m. somebody just like kicks me, I'm gonna be miserable. Like I'm just gonna rage. So I was like, I went and laid in the closet, like kind of as a joke, and then when I got in there, like just being in the box just blocked like all the noise, and I was just like alone. And I was in my little area, and like everything just felt like secure and nice because I was sick, and I was like, I just want to die in here.
I remember seeing the picture of you.
Yeah, Josh comes up with a camera and he goes to take a picture of me, and I'm just laying in there like, and he's like, why are you in the closet? I'm like, it feels safe. But yeah, so he snapped the picture, and then I was like, I'm gonna sleep in here, and like this was the surprising part. When I woke up the next morning, I thought I was going to feel awful from like sleeping on the floor, like my body was going to feel awful, but I was actually okay. I was super amazed when I woke up in the morning. I was like, huh, like my head still feels terrible, but like I thought like my back, I would just wake up and be like, why did I sleep on a floor? And there was like a safe in there down by my feet too, so I figured like my foot would be all gnarled when I woke up and just be like, why did I do this? But yeah, but no, when I woke up, I was actually surprisingly not complete awful. Like I thought I was going to be completely awful. But yeah, and I woke up and I'm just like, okay. Like I just had the mindset. I was like, I've already made top 16. Like this is great. That's fantastic. Like that made me feel fantastic. And I'm like, but I feel awful. Like I am so sick. And when we get to the game center, the first thing I do is I was like, I just felt like everything was just sapped for me. I'm like, I need a Gatorade. So I'm just pounding Gatorades in the morning. So then we start the rounds. I'm not sure what my first match was. I'm not sure, but I know I played light side, and I rolled over him. It was like I ended up doing a silly Trissa combat trick turn where she ended up striking like 3 times. It was like 2 on 1 objective and then 1 on another, and I killed like 2 objectives in 1 swing. I was just way ahead on the board. I got like 3 tactics icons. I think I killed a guy in combat too. It was obscene. So that was the first one, and then I remember playing Kira mode, and I had never met him before. And like I wish anyone would have told me, because that guy is insanely good at the game. Like if he did not draw poorly, he 100% would have beat me. Like he is entirely a better player than me. And like when we sat down and we're playing, I'm like sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm like, wow, this guy is just a lot better than me. Like, and his deck was super creative and imaginative. And like, I barely know Star Wars pods because I don't read a ton of them. I just play enough card games that like to me, 80% of being good at Star Wars is don't miss triggers. Like if you don't miss triggers, and then I'm going to say the other 20% is like, don't screw up combat. Like combat's really important, but like 80% of that game is don't miss triggers. And since playing Thrones and Netrunner and all those other games, Magic for a bit, like all of them have a ton of triggers to remember. And Star Wars probably has the most, honestly, out of all of them. Thrones can be pretty bad sometimes, and the decks I play in Netrunner are bad. But yeah, Star Wars overall has like the most trigger things. And like combat, if you're good at edge battles and combat and understanding the way that it works, it's pretty good. Like the deck building aspect, I don't feel like is super enormous until I play players like Kira Mode or Josh Johnson. Like either of those guys, like Tom Malucci plays the good cards. That's his thing. He plays the good cards. If Tom Malucci draws well on any given day, he's the world champion, right? Because he's playing the good cards. He's a great player. And if he draws them well, you're not going to beat him because it's good cards played by a good player in the right order. But like Kira Mode and now Kira Mode and Josh were always the guys. Like when I saw Josh, it's always, I have no idea what he's doing. Like none. I have no idea what he's going to bring. I have no idea what he's going to play. I have no idea what it's going to do to me. Like I played him in a casual game before the top 16 started, or the day before, and I was playing DS pilots, like old DS pilots are fun with Prince, like with Prince and Boba, and then like the Vader, the pilot Vader. And I was just playing him for fun. He just rolled me with a Rebel deck that I've like didn't even register in my head as a thing. And I wish he would have played that deck at Worlds because that deck was awesome. It was super, super awesome. But I remember one turn I think he took like, I think it was like 20 triggers. Like, I'm not even kidding. It was like 20 triggers with the capture Leia and like Kraken and or not Kraken, Jan Oris or whatever. He used the fake card to like bring him back and then return him. The turn was just insane. And I'm sitting there like this, like as he's doing it, and I was like, oh god, I'm gonna lose this event so bad. So like that's before I even started playing. But yeah, so like Kira mode, 100%. If he draws, at least okay cards, not great. If he draws okay, he's just destroyed me. Like he almost rolled over me, and I felt I was monstrously ahead, and I still almost just got destroyed. He was playing that crazy to save a friend deck, and he put 2 Falcons under it. Yeah, like I had no idea what was happening. And like the Lando, the objective Lando, I'm like, what is this? But there was a turn where he got a Falcon back, but he didn't have any character. He didn't draw a character. Like I think by then I was far enough ahead where if he would have drawn a character, I would have been okay. But like play skill wise, that guy is off the charts. Like if I'm gonna pick a top 3 players that I think are like going to win Worlds this year, it would be like, all right, I want to say 4. I would pick Josh, him. After playing him, I was just like, probably like Tom, because Tom's always going to be good. Like you can't ever count him out. And then Mick, and I guess I would throw in like Nathan Ferraro is super good, but he like Swiss rounds he's phenomenal.
Yeah,
but
I always
in the championship rounds with him.
His name's always at the top of the list when I'm tracking tournaments, and then just something happens.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's pressure or what, but like the Swiss rounds, I pick that guy #1 seed every time over everyone. I don't know why, but in the Swiss rounds, he's just a monster. Like no one stops him in Swiss rounds. He always gets I think he just sets the bar at 16, and then like he's always there. I've never like seen an event where he wasn't doing well. But yeah, so like he'd be up there too. But yeah, no, after playing Kira mode, he went on like immediately went on like the best players I've ever met list. And it's because that creative aspect. The guy just knows all the cards. And I hadn't sat down and listened to his podcast and any of that stuff, like, or to him, like the articles that he does and stuff until after Worlds. And I watched him on here, and then I was like reading some of his stuff, and I was like, oh my God, like I did not deserve to beat him. Like, I did not deserve to beat him at all. This guy has put so much more work in. But yeah, so I played him, beat him. One of the guys I played, I feel bad about this, but like at the same time, well, I guess I don't feel bad because I gave him such adequate time. Mm-hmm. So the situation was he had a mouse droid, and like my turn starts, and I'm holding a token in my hand from the beginning of the turn. I'm 100% focusing a guy when he activates mouse droid, 100%. So I'm holding the token, and I'm like, okay, I will go. Like I'm just announcing all the phases, just waiting like this, and I start playing stuff, and before I go into combat, he activates mouse droid, and I say I'll focus a guy, and I drop my token, and I dropped it on a Lost Master that already had a token, which was clearly not okay. Like that's a legal game state. But then he draws a card after I had done that. Like his hand wasn't even on his deck. He draws a card and he looks at it, and I was like, "Come on!" I was like, "Dude, I gave you so much time." Like I like immediately I snapped at him when he said I'll focus mouse droid. I was like, "I'll focus a dude," and I just like threw the token out there, and he was like, okay. And I was like, what? But yeah, so I felt bad because I like called the judge over for that. It's sucky, but I gave him like time. And like when he said to me too, he's like straight out, he's like, but you put the focus token on a Lost Master that already had a focus token on it. And I was like, you're right. I 100% agree with you. But to fix that situation, I would just have to focus another eligible target. Like I announced that I was doing it, so I have to do it. But yeah, so that kind of sucked. And like we talked it over, and I showed him my hand and stuff. Like after he got the game loss, I was already monstrously ahead in that game, and I think he was actually just dead that turn. Like when we sat down and we showed each other, or I showed him my hand, and then like I think like 20 minutes later, he came up to me, we were talking, and he told me what was in his hand and stuff like that. And then I like played out the scenario for him, and he's like, Oh, I think I would have just died that turn. I'm like, yeah, I
Mm.
think you would have, like, because you didn't have what he didn't have what I thought he would have had to edge, so he would have just got rolled over. But yeah, so that kind of sucked. Like that was bad for him. I gave him adequate time though, so that's why I don't feel bad. I feel bad that the rule is that way, and we'll be talking about that later. But
Yeah.
at the time, like that's not my fault. Like I could just not call a judge, but honestly, the judge was standing right behind me. And like I guess I could have played it out, so that's bad on me. But and then I forgot. Oh, I forgot the guy's name that I played. He was playing the scum deck, blonde hair. He was the judge at Gen Con. God, I'm so bad. I'm so
Tyler.
terrible. Tyler. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm so bad with names, by the way. I'm great with faces, bad with names. But yeah, so I played him, and he had an okay scum hand. It was honestly pretty poor. I feel like most of the players I played against didn't draw that well. Like I was drawing okay, like above the curve, and they were slightly below the curve. Like I remember one turn he played like what's the 4-drop scum unit that has to attack and has a million icons?
Ponda Baba.
Ponda Baba. So yeah, he played that guy, and like with like the reduced cost of him,
Yeah.
and nothing else. Like on one turn, it was like resource him nothing, and I was like, and then he had to swing with him, so I just got like an uncontested turn. Like he had an underground entertainment, but it didn't really matter because I was just like everybody.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of the objectives out to give his objectives more damage capacity for like the captured cards, but it didn't honestly matter. That game went really long. Yet again, that was another scenario where if he drew at least a little bit under the way that I was drawing, he probably would have just won the game. Because there was a couple awkward turns where he fumbled, but excuse me. And then I played the other Nate, and that game, I was playing Navy, and he was playing light side, and I flopped the stone cold nuts on him. I flopped entrenched defenses, Imperial Blockade, and then enforced loyalty. So turn one, I play 1-drop or the 3 resource fleeting station. I play Nita, and then I play the 4-drop capital ship that like taunts units. That makes them block.
Yeah,
and then
interdictor.
Yeah, and then I commit Nita and pass my turn. And like so I'm like just monstrously ahead. He plays a 1-drop resource, the damage capacity increaser from Zeb's pod, and then plays the Daughter of the Force, the 2-drop that lets you look at the top card of your deck.
Children of the Force. Yeah.
Children of the Force. So he plays that, and then like swings, and I'm so bad. So he plays that and swings, and I don't move him to entrenched defenses. He swings at blockade, and I was like, oh, I'll block with my ship. And then I was like, after I thought about that, I was like, God, I am horrible. Like, why did I not move that? Like, what am I doing? But yeah, as I block with the ship, we go to edge. He wins, of course, and then swings, deals the damage, and then I delete his guy. And then I go into the next turn, and I discarded almost all my hand into edge. And I pitched the last card in my hand. I was like, I need like if I draw a fist, I'm fine, or a Yularen, I'm fine because I have Nita, so I can deliver fist, and I have Yularen, so I can just move the damage. And then I draw. The first card I draw is Yularen, and I was like, I didn't deserve that. Like I was bad, and that happened. It shouldn't have happened, but it happened. But yeah, I draw, and then so that turn I end up playing Tarkin, the 3-drop edge 1 capital ship, and Yularen, move the damage, and then like go attack an objective. And he has nothing. He just has the 1 resource out. He takes his turn, draws, looks at his hand, plays Zeb for 5, and then just looks at it and goes no, and just like scoops his cards on turn 2. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I probably should have moved you to entrenched defenses. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, that was really bad. But yeah, I was, like I said though, keep in mind I'm sick and delirious during this whole. But that's still not an excuse for how horrible that was. That's just horrible. It doesn't matter how sick I am. That's horrible. But yeah, and that was one of the games that Andy had recorded, and it was like 3 minutes. And like when it was because my turn 1, I was just like, dude, need a ship, commit, go, and he's like 2-drop, and I'm like block don't move, you die. Next turn, dude, and he's like, okay, Zeb, I scoop. That was literally the whole game. We spent more time shuffling, I think, than actually playing. But yeah, so then at this point, I'm undefeated, and I have to lose 2 in a row, but I have to wait to play someone that's 5-1 or whatever, 4-1 or however it works. So at this point, it's 2 o'clock. It is 2 p.m. I know that I'm going to have to wait till later to play whoever wins. Like, I'm gonna have to wait a little bit. At this point, I'm horribly sick. Like, I ate a little bit. I ate some like wings, but I just feel miserable. I have to drive home that night, like back to Wassa, and I don't have a hotel, so I can't stay, and I had to be home because I have to go to work the next day. And what ended up happening was I talked to the judge. I was talking to him, and I was like, dude, like, it's 2, and you told me because like right when I won, he's like, oh, you get to take a break until 8. And I was like, it's 2. And he's like, yeah, you get a break till 8 because that's when the stream starts. And I was like, and I wasn't sure if maybe the people playing would take that long, which if it does, I have to deal with it, right? But then at like 3 o'clock, when I realized that this is going to be done by like 5, like I'm going to have my guy ready to play at 5, I go up to him and I was like, I am miserable. Like, I am just miserable right now. I want to go home. I don't want to wait till 8 o'clock to like go on a stream. And I'm like, by the time they're done, we'll probably have like 3 hours. And like, by then I will have already been waiting for 3 hours. And then I'll have to wait 3 more hours to go on the camera. And it's like, you're not streaming the Star Wars Championship rounds right now. You're streaming X-Wing Swiss. Like, I get it. X-Wing has a bigger player base, but still, like, you're going to stream one game and you're going to make me sit for 6 hours to like, and I'm ill as hell. Like, if I wasn't sick, I wouldn't have cared. I would have been like, okay, whatever, we'll play. We're done. I'll drive home, get home at 1 in the morning or whatever. It doesn't matter. But I just felt so awful. And then, so they had to go discuss that, which at one point I walked up to them and it was them talking to some other judges too. I'm like, look, Team Covenant has a camera. Andy has a camera. Record the game at 5 o'clock and then just play it on the stream at 8. Like, it doesn't need to be live. Like, it's not like there's no reason that has to be live. You can just play a recording of our game at 8 o'clock and people will still get to see it. And then they told me straight out that they couldn't do that, which I don't know. Like, I know that they can do that, but I don't think they can do that because it's not their cameras. So they don't have rights to the video. So that probably would create some sort of thing. And it was like, I was so frustrated with it because they were discussing it for like 2 hours before I got an answer. And I was like, look, guys, I'm not trying to dick over the community here. Like, I like the Star Wars community. It's my favorite community out of all the games I play. But I feel awful, and I have to drive home by myself in the dark, like through Minnesota where I don't live. Like, I want to go home, and I'm like, just put me on camera when it's done. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick. Like, I'm still letting you record it. Like, the other scenario is I just say, I don't want to be on camera. We start at 5 and no one gets to see it, right? Because like, I have the ability to do that, but it's like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to dick over the community. Like, I want people to see it. If people want to see it, I want them to see it. But it's like, I'm not going to sit for 6 hours in a chair and just wait, because that's what I was doing. And they finally decided that, like, okay, we will let you play right at 5 o'clock. We can't like run the stream for the game. Like, we can't take the recorded game and play it on a stream. So at 5 o'clock or whenever they're done, you'll just go. So it was like 5:15 ish. Like 5:20 when Nate finished and we were ready to play. So I remember walking outside and just feeling awful, just feeling terrible. I was talking to the guys and like, it was, so, you know, like, optimistic people are like, the glass is half full. Pessimistic people is like, the glass is half empty. So I was like in some weird mid-ground at that point, because I was just like, I just can't lose 2 games. And then I remember I was talking to I remember who I was talking to about it, but they're like, what? And I was like, I just have to not lose twice.
Simple
And I
way of
thought
looking
about
at
that. Yeah, it's like that's somewhere in between optimistic and pessimistic. It's like, I just don't want to lose. I don't want to win. I just don't want to lose. But yeah, and I was like, okay, I just can't lose 2 games. And I knew he had a really bad, like, he was kind of psyched out right away because of that Navy game that I just rolled him over. And that was like the last game that I played. And it was 3 minutes. And he gets to play Darkside first. So he has to win with Darkside and then he has to try and beat my Navy that just rolled him over. Which if he doesn't get a good start in that deck, he's dead. Like if I flop blockade and he doesn't have a good start, he's dead 100% of the time. That deck's slow. The deck he was playing was slow. It was Spark and Zeb and stuff, but I don't know if he had Kyle. He might have had Kyle, but I'm not 100% sure. But like if he doesn't flop Spark, he's dead. Like I don't know. It's just that deck is very fickle. But anyway, so like I think he was already mentally kind of checked out of that already. I want to say like he was just like the feeling of dread, I guess. Like he knew he had a chance, but I feel mentally he felt it was a long chance after that Navy game. After it was like same thing would happen to me if I got crushed in 3 minutes and I had to play the guy in a match and I have to beat him twice. It's like I have to not only beat your light side, but then I have to beat the deck that you destroyed me with in 3 minutes. So, but yeah, going into that, it felt a little strange.
Before we go into that, let's just talk about the decks first.
Okay.
Yeah, so what were you running exactly?
So I had I had been on the council like 2 weeks before Worlds, telling my exact deck list for light side, and I remember saying it to like the group, and I just kind of looked at everybody's reactions, and Andy was kind of like, eh, and then Tom was like, because it's not just all the good cards. Josh was like, Josh is like, well, that's not very creative, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I look at Mick, and Mick's got like there's something there face. Like as I'm explaining it more and more, he's like, oh, I get it now. So I was running 2 Kyle Katarn. I love Heroes and Legends. It's like it's probably my favorite light side pod in the game. Every time I've ever activated Heroes and Legends, it's felt fantastic. Like I've never flop it and I'm like sad about it. Like there's some objectives that you get and you're just kind of like, not very good right now. And then there's other objectives that are always great. Like May the Force Be With You is always like, yay. Like Lost Masters, Trissaw's objective or whatever. That thing is really good if you don't flop May the Force Be With You, because you get to do what that does, which is swing with your characters and then still take the force back. But some games that feels terrible, like if you're behind, they can just win an edge battle and take the force on you and never have to commit a guy. And it sucks like when you have it's bad. But yeah, so I was running 2 Kyle, 2 Trissaw, 2 Core Luke, 2 May the Force Be With You, so the Yoda you seek Yoda, and then 2 Trissaw. Or no, 2 Kuran. I forgot Kuran already. Trissaw. So the reason that I like this deck so much is every single one of first things first. For Jedi, it has 6 resources, and that's very good for Jedi. Like no Jedi pods have freaking money ever. None of them. Like every time I go to build Jedi decks, I'm like, where's the resources? But yeah, so it has 6 money, which is good enough for me. Ron's Guidance helps balance out draws a ton. Like if I open Ron's Guidance, I feel a lot better about not having a resource as my opening hand because I have a lot of tries to get it. It's very good because it combos with Yoda You Seek Yoda, so getting a shuffle with Ron's Guidance is very important, I feel. But yeah, so Ron's Guidance helps with resources. There's 6 resources in the deck. That's number 1. 2 is it has a ton of huge Jedi beaters with a million icons. Like Trissa, I feel is an extremely underrated character. Like in my head mentally, I thought a lot of people were going to be on Sith with the 3 objective Vader where you have to focus a guy. And like Lost Master, that deck would have Lost Master, Nudge, Twi'lek Loyalist, and I guess I could focus Sulons if I didn't like Sulon Sympathizers, if I didn't need their resource. So like having a bunch of little idiots to counter that objective is what I thought I would need. So Trissa giving me the Lost Master, and it doesn't matter if those guys are focused because they're still committed, and that's the point, is they need to be committed for her. But her icon spread is ridiculous. Like the Edge 2 is like, it's good, but it isn't the end all be all. You can just win an edge battle. Like you can win an edge battle without Edge 2. So, and then you just turn on all her icons and she blows up a guy, blows up an objective and focuses someone. It's just insane. So a lot of heavy beaters. Luke is obviously targeted strikes good. I love Kyle. And I wanted 2 copies of everything. I hate when I see Heroes and Legends lists that run Owen. It drives me insane. Absolutely insane. Because you have 2 pods that don't have copies. Like every time you activate Heroes and Legends, I feel that like your odds of winning the game goes up like probably 3 to 5%. Like every time I activate that card, I'm like, I am getting closer to victory. Like it's so hard to deal with because you get a fresh guy. You get a swing again, If you had already swung, you get a swing again, and you can dodge like Vader's. So like, oh, you attack with your Vader, or I attack you, you block with Vader, I lose edge battle. Okay, I'll just Heroes and Legends. You focus to strike nothing, and then I just get a swing again. Cool. It's like swinging with a Twi'lek loyalist, and if you beat him, you can just crunch a Vader. But so that I feel is very strong. Heroes and Legends is good, but yeah, I like 2 copies of each character. Like I can't do the one of thing; it drives me nuts. Like if I knew I only, or like people play with the Obi-Wan pod with the Wolfmen.
Yeah.
Like it would drive me insane to know that I only have one Obi-Wan. Like I'd have the one Obi-Wan and he'd be in play, and I'd be like, I want a Heroes and Legends you so bad, but I can't. And Heroes and Legends also wombo combos really well with Kuran, because if I have a Kuran that doesn't die, like he doesn't get killed, it's very hard for Navy to win, because no matter what, they have to assign damage to my guys, so I can just blow up objectives. But yeah, so 1 was resources that were okay, 2 was big beaters, 3 is combat tricks. That deck 100% relies on combat tricks, so that's back to why Heroes and Legends is good. But you have Heroes and Legends, Yoda you seek Yoda at instant speed. You have 4 Echoes of the Force, because you get them with Yoda and you get them with Trissa. And then you get, what else do you have? Luke's pod has
Trust your feelings.
Trust your feelings. So you get a double strike there. The Heroes and Legends activation, I don't know if I said that already. You get Force Reju from Kuran's pod. You get Kuran's Protect for damage. And then my favorite pet card from the Trissa pod is Gift from the Past. Yeah. So if you have May the Force Be With You out and you use Gift from the Past, it's a double strike for free. And it has 2 Force Pips. That card is like very, very good almost every time I've played it. And it's really good too if people think that you're going to have a guy that's going to, like I like to move it, remove tokens from somebody that already swing with new guy. And then that's just insane. You get to swing twice with someone. What else did I like about that? Oh, you can move their stuff around too, and like just mess with things. But yeah, it's just so good for a free card. Like it's supposed to be the shit card of the pod. Like that's usually like the event's always and like hard to use. But because May the Force Be With You exists, that card goes from like, without May the Force Be With You, the power level of that card is about a 2 out of 10. I'd give it like probably a 2, maybe soft 3. With May the Force Be With You, it goes from like a 3 to like a 6-7 range. But yeah, so the combat tricks in that deck are just insane. Like there's turns where I've swung and struck with a guy like 3 or 4 times. I remember at Gen Con, I had a Voltron Luke that had 2 Trust Your Feelings and then 2 lightsabers on him. And like one turn, I just plowed 3 objectives and the guy lost. He was like, what happened? And I was like, built a Voltron. The judge took a picture of it. It was like trust, lightsaber. And then he played Inquisitor's Hunted on him. So he had like 5 attachments, just like super Voltron Luke. But yeah, so that's why I enjoy the light side deck a lot. When I play Star Wars, especially light side, I want to make combat as impossible for my opponent as I can.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel that at any given time. Oh yeah, and Force Reju. I forgot about that. Anyway, I don't feel at any given time when I'm going into combat with someone, if I haven't activated Heroes and Legends out, or if I haven't activated it, it's like if I have a Heroes and Legends and a May the Force Be With You, if I just kept up all my resources and went into combat because I have like a Yoda you seek Yoda or something, say I have just like a Trissa out and they have 2 guys. That combat is insane. They cannot tell me how that's going to go. They have no idea because there's a million things that can happen because there's just so many options in the deck. Like I could play Yoda you seek Yoda, swing with him, and then swing with Trissa, and then use Gift from the Past to move, or commit Yoda or something with Echoes, and then use Gift from the Past, all in the same turn, and then activate Heroes and Legends and put a new Trissa on, and then ended up doing like 7 or 8 damage that turn and kill their guys out of nowhere with like 4 cards in my hand. But yeah, so that's why I really enjoy playing the light side deck. So now the dark side. I guess, do you have any questions about the light side?
No, I think it's self-explanatory. I ran Heroes and Legends at 2 nationals ago, and it did some work for me as well. So in similar style. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that one, and it's strange how it caught a lot of people out, right? But like you say, if they don't see what's coming, and suddenly all you got all this double striking coming out from nowhere, it's pretty hard to combat.
Yeah, and it's just really hard to put the player on cards because there's so many options. Like if you have May the Force Be Out, you have Echoes, Gift, Force Rejuve. Yoda, you seek Yoda. You could Yoda, you seek Yoda, put a Yoda and swing with him, and then Heroes and Legends with the one in your hand that you just didn't play. But yeah, stuff like that. That's honestly why I like that deck a lot. A lot of people online, I guess I don't know if this is me being like picky, but like when I've been reading forums and stuff and just looking around like afterwards, a lot of people said it was very like a very basic deck. But I feel of all of the Jedi decks I've played, that one is probably one of the most complicated. Like I think back to the turn, like I'll explain how it happened, but the turn that I won was probably one of the hardest combats that I've ever had to do in Star Wars because I had to do like 6 things. Like I'm playing almost all of the cards in my hand every turn with that deck. Like I'm doing something with them. They're not just 4 cards into edge. Like the cards are valuable. Every event in that deck is like good or above average. Like they're not just complete trash. There's very little just garbage cards in it total out of all the cards. Like every time I sit down and I think Ataru training is garbage, I win a world championship with it. Right. And then like one time I put a Xi'an, the deflect one from Kuran's spot on Yoda, and I was doing the math, and I had a Kuran out and a Yoda with a Xi'an on him. I was like, "There's no way you kill him. You need to have like 9 guys with like 2 blast damage or 2 unit damage each, and you still might not kill him. Like if I have other tricks." It was just insane. Like when I was doing the math, like how would you kill this Yoda right now? Like, is there a way? Especially with Force Rejuve. Like, if I have Force Rejuve in my hand, there's no way you kill this Yoda ever. Like, but yeah. So every time I start to like think that those cards aren't very good, there's like a scenario where I just blow somebody out with them, and I was like, oh yeah, that's why they're in here. But yeah, so of all of the cards in the deck, I don't feel that there's really a bad one. I don't know if I might be missing something and not thinking of something, but I think from all those pods, there's not a single bad card.
No, it's pretty solid, I think.
Like Ataru and Xi'an, I think is as close as you get. And those aren't, I wouldn't consider those bad. They're situationally fantastic. Most of the time they're below average, but they're situationally fantastic. All right, so then that's the light side deck. Make combat math impossible, big beaters, a lot of tricks. Dark side, I like to, I was comparing it to the closet. I like to build the wall and then hide in it. So I like to get the wall, and I want to just be in my closet. Like, no, don't touch me. But yeah, so that's Navy. Play Navy. The one thing that I play that I saw Nathan Ferraro at a regional like a couple months ago after Worlds, and he switched to playing it now, was Tarkin. Right now, I feel that Tarkin's objective in the current meta with Yularen, because Yularen exists with him. Without Yularen, it's not great. But with Yularen, his objective is hands down the most oppressive dark side objective you can play against. I feel that out of all of the dark side objectives I've ever played against, nothing will ruin a game more than Imperial Blockade. I think, this is my opinion obviously, but I feel Imperial Blockade is the best dark side objective currently in the game because other cards exist, obviously. Evaluating the pod quality on its own, it's terrible pod. But right now, because of Yularen, you can justify playing 2 really bad capital ships for Nita and Blockade. Like, Apology Accepted isn't awful, but it's not anywhere near good. But Blockade alone, I sat down one day and I thought to myself, I was like, what is the like, I love playing Choke in Thrones. I love playing Choke. So I was like, I got to try Choke Navy, right? But if you ever play a Jedi player, like if you play against my light side deck, and my light side deck opens up Dagobah Training Grounds like a Kyle, and just say 3 other random cards, or 4 other random cards, that hand's good. Like I would keep that hand 100% of the time. And if my opponent flops Blockade, I'm dead. I can't play anything turn 1. I can't do anything. I play a resource and maybe a 0 drop if I'm lucky. Like I'm not aggressively mulliganing into that though. I'm keeping like a Kyle. Like if I see a Navy house card, before then no one else played Nita, so when I saw a Navy house card I was like, yeah, that's fine, I can keep this hand. But after I had built the deck, I got a little skittish around Navy, but like no one played him, and I don't know why. To me that was insane. If you open all 4 drops, you lose the game. You can't play anything turn 1, you pass. And like Yularen can just move damage off of it, and especially with entrenched defenses. Like if playing underneath Blockade for 1 turn is terrible, playing underneath Blockade for 2 turns is just disgusting. And like I can't even imagine. Like I played that at a regional when Rule by Fear was still the way that it was. So Rule by Fear plus Blockade.
That's nasty.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh,
just-
you finally played a 5-drop, and now he's in your hand. Like, okay. But yeah, so that's the first objective. And Nita, I love. I'll explain that later when we
Mhm.
well, spoiler. But yeah, second objective, entrenched defenses. Moving people there is absolutely insane. The
Yeah.
the Golgon, whatever defense platforms, whatever they are, they're okay. It bothers me that they're not capital ships. The resource is insane because it lets you remove a focus token from a vehicle.
That's been so good for me, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I use that mainly to swing with those 3-drop edge 1 ships because no one defends them. They're like almost impossible to defend because I can just put a card in edge and pass, and you're probably gonna lose. So allowing me to swing with that guy or like a Chimera and then have it on defense is stupid. But I love swinging with the edge 1 guy. Just get into 2 damage, tactics something, and then that's good. Remove that. All good. That yet again, I hate that the Golgons aren't capital ships, but it makes sense because that would have been kind of stupid. So those two Tarkin, obviously Pod's just nutty. I think the one thing that helps out with Tarkin is that them changing rule by fear was a big deal. I can't even imagine if they let me like do rule by fear plus blockade. Like I still think rule by fear is fine. I still think every card in Tarkin's pod is good. The 2-drop guy that lets you just swing and assassinate somebody is insane, especially with like the way that the light side plays. Like the light side goes in, all their guys are tapped. That's just how it works, and then you just get to eat one. So 2 Tark, and then I have 2 Yularen, yet again, obvious, super good with Nita's pod. Protecting blockade, like you have, I think it's like a 50, or no, it's a 40, you have a 40% chance to flop blockade. Like that's insane. Almost a half of the games that you're playing have blockade in them. Like that's super oppressive. And keeping damage off that with Yularen, I feel is better than enforced loyalties because if you can't play guys, I'm going to win the game. Like I don't need to damage your objectives if you can just not play anyone. And you not playing anyone is a lot safer than me damaging your objectives. Me damaging your objectives doesn't change the board state really. It just makes it where the timer, like your timer to win the game goes down. But if you don't have characters, I can just beat the ever living shit out of you constantly. Like I can keep pressure on. To me, that deck feels like it feels like playing poker. Like you get ahead, you cut somebody's leg off, and you just lean on them till they fall over. And then my board's this big, and you have tiny board. But yeah, so 2 Yularen, he's insane. I play 2 Endor entrapments, the capital ship pod. I love that pod. I love that 3-drop capital ship. And with Nita, he costs 1, which is just silly. Like turn 1 playing him, like play Nita, or play a resource, play Nita, play a capital ship for 1, commit Nita, go. Like, yeah, that's Nita is insane. But anyway, that feels great. I love those capital ships. I love pretty much that whole pod. Like every ship is good. You have what do you have? The 4-drop one, the 3-drop edge 1/1, the shielding one, right? That can like come in on defense. Is that the one that's in there?
No. So Endor entrapment, you got two gladiators and 1 interdictor.
Okay, and then a resource.
And
is it control room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something
Oh
else
yeah,
in
that Navy deck has like a ridiculous amount of resources. I've never you very rarely ever miss a turn 1 resource ever, especially when it's on your guys like Tarkin. It's on your Tarkin. It's on Nita. Like the fleeting station was the worst thing that they printed for Navy. Like here's a free resource. It works on all your cards. There's like 2 cards it doesn't work on. It doesn't work on like Maul or Mythal or whatever. And what's the 2-drop assassinate guy?
Yeah.
That's like it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I can't play a control room with it. Oh no, I guess I have to sequence my cards a little differently. Like it's like every other card in the deck it plays. It's just stupid. It's a free resource turn 1. Like, oh, Navy starts with 5 resources now. Cool. But yeah, and then I have entrenched 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I forgot Might of the Empire, right? Yep. And that's yet again just good ships, good capital ships that I can play for nothing. But yeah, so that's. I think, did I miss anything else, or is that all of it? I think I got it all.
I think that's all of it. Typical Navy fortress, but with Imperial blockade, just to really screw with.
Yeah, I don't like. I looked at every Navy list and I couldn't get why like people didn't have Nita. Like, so this furthers my badness, by the way. There was a regional before Worlds, before the Navy restricts hit, and I wasn't playing the thing where you damage your objective to make capital ships cost nothing with Yularen, because I had Nita in, and I had one Thrawn. And and like I ended up winning that regional, but I remember the guy that I played in the last round did that to me, and I was like, oh, I get it. like he did it turn 1, and I was like, I didn't even think about. I'm so bad. I was like, I didn't even think about that. That was so awful because I read the cards in the pod, and I was like, I don't even care what the objective does. Doesn't matter. I don't want to play it. And I was like, I just want to play I want to play Imperial Blockade so bad. But yeah, no, and yeah, so that was terrible. But so back then I get it. I get not playing Blockade there because you had that Wombo combo and it was just dumb. Like you wanted to flop that 100% of the time, and you didn't have enough pods to go around, so it was fine. But now, if you're gonna say Navy is a fortress, people hate those 5-drop capital ships. Even when you play them for 3 off of Nita, they still feel expensive. It gives you a case to feel bad when you have to play one, but usually you do that when you're monstrously ahead, so you don't really care too much. But yeah, Apology Accepted can be randomly good, but most of the time it's very below average. Using it, the one thing I like doing it with it is use it to kill Yularen so you can play another one. That's super important. So the two ships are terrible, but Nita, the objective, Apology Accepted are all very good. They're fine. They're not. Nita and the objective are insane. Apology Accepted's okay. And then isn't there a resource in that pod too or something? What's in that pod? Let me ship Nita, Apology Accepted. Is it a fake card?
It might be a fake
I don't remember.
Card. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. But anyway, I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good. Yeah, I don't remember what it is. But yeah, maybe it's just a control room. But the rest of that pod makes up for it. And if the idea with Navy is to sit behind your wall, that is the perfect thing. It's a choke card. It's one of the very few choke cards in Star Wars. There's a reason they don't print them all the time, because they're horribly oppressive and feel bad. The Vader objective, if you only have one guy out, feels really bad. Imperial Blockade, if you drop, the best case scenario in Imperial Blockade is you don't draw all 4 drops, but then you play a 2-drop for 3. And if you don't have a resource, you're just dead. The guy that I played, Nate, when he had a resource, he was still just dead because I killed this guy and moved the damage. I'll play Zeb for 5. That's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. Right now, it might not be as bad because of stupid Spark, because people can crap out units for free. But if they can't cheat in dudes, Imperial Blockade is insane. If you are paying for your guys, Imperial Blockade is insane. That's what I go with. I see people do the big 6-drop ship that deals 3 damage to something when it comes in. Yeah, I like that too. That to me, that card just, I don't know. It rustles my jimmies. It's too offensive.
Yeah.
It wants to attack and stuff. Oh, get that garbage out of here. No, that pod's good. Signal Jammer is good for events and stuff. The signal jamming, somebody did that to my Yoda. You seek Yoda, and I was like, oh, I see why people play this pod now. That felt bad. But I still think the Blockade choke is far superior because you get it 40% of the time. How many games are you actually signal jamming a Yoda? You seek Yoda. If it were me, I would have signal jammer in my hand that they would never play Yoda. You seek Yoda. Or it would be me and I'd be playing Yoda and they wouldn't have the signal jammer. I felt like everyone I played was playing that Navy side and only one guy signal jammed me the whole day. And it was good. Don't get me wrong, it was phenomenal. It was a great play. But it didn't feel as oppressive as when I flop Blockade and just with entrenched defenses and I just look at people and I'm like, got a bunch of 4-drops, can't play them, you lose. Yeah. But yeah, as far as Navy Fort goes, that to me, until they restrict something with Yularen. If Yularen and Nita are not restricted, they should be played side by side for pretty much ever, because they're insane. And the supporting capital ship pods, that Edge 1 capital ship is bonkers. It's one of the best defenders I've ever had, because it comes with a supporting fire and Edge 1. It's and it's got a tactics and a gun. It's everything that you want in a unit. I've always wanted to put Thrawn in there somewhere. I love Thrawn a lot, because he just feels also broken. Oh, I lost Edge, I'll focus your guy. But yeah, especially when you have to pay 50 for your units, it feels bad. But yeah, so I did see people switching to Nita now, but I think I was the only Nita in the top 16 at Worlds for all the Navy decks.
Right, everyone, I'm going to halt the video there. so everyone can catch up. Check back soon for part 2, where we start delving even deeper into Brad's thoughts on cards, and we find out which cards he puts in the Carbonite Chamber. Hope you enjoy it.